Buenas tardes, bienvenidos al Innovation Demo Day.
Welcome to Innovation Day in Suez. And we're delighted, our Suez teams around the world, accompanied by our clients, to have you here with for this World Suez Tour. For the first time, this is a 100% digital format. We are having a session on inclusive green development and recovery. From Australia, US, China, and Southeast Asia, India, France, and Spain and Latin America, there have been 9 webinars throughout the day relating to other topics having to do with, among other topics, the circular economy, digital transformation, solutions, zero waste, and zero carbon. So the common factor is innovation. We want to send a big welcome to everyone from Barcelona. We also want to greet those of us who are following us from Mexico, Panama, Colombia, Peru, Brazil, and Chile, among other countries in Latin America. So today, at Suez, Spain, together with Latin America, we'll be talking about the ability to find concrete responses to climate change and other emerging challenges that require innovation to achieve greater resilience. And we'll be hearing from experts, for example, Esteban León from UN Habitat, as well as a number of experts from Suez, Spain, and Latin America, who will be talking about solutions and success stories to deal with the challenges of nature. We're rebroadcasting this webinar directly on YouTube, and so you can leave your questions in the comments area. And additionally, if you want to find anything more out, you can contact us by sending a mail to external.events.hq@suez.com, and we can answer you because we don't want to leave anything unanswered. And we'll do a quick tour, as it were, of the consequences of climate change to start, the consequences on the planet, and particularly the water resources. We are faced with many effects: water stress, droughts, floods, and so forth. Countries such as Spain, Chile, or Mexico, just to name a few, require special attention because they are under very high water stress. In fact, in Spain is one of the countries that's most affected by loss of biodiversity. In 2030, it's estimated that 47% of world population will live in areas under water stress. So given these challenges, it's important and urgent to have projects that are responsible with the climate and that make cities more resilient. In Suez, we are committed to preserving the essential elements of our environment: water, land, and air, offering innovative solutions for industry, administrations, and supporting citizens. We at Suez base our strategy on climate change, on developing adaptation and mitigation solutions, promoting models based on circular economy in line with the Agenda 2030 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The first guest, let me give a brief introduction. Given these challenges, the United Nations has been moving forward in defining and implementing a model to improve resilience and develop more comprehensive urban planning that's integrated as well. Today, we have the pleasure of having with us Esteban León, Director of the the World Program for Resilient Cities of UN Habitat. So, Esteban, can you tell us a little bit about this program? Are you working together with local governments and institutions to adapt the model to the needs of each area, right? Can you tell us about it, please?
Good afternoon or good morning in either part of the world, wherever you are. First of all, I have to say that it is a great pleasure for me to share this day with you. Right now, I think it is very important to talk about urban resilience and climate change. Certainly, we must dig deeper on these issues, otherwise we will face its consequences in a few years. Regarding your question, the first line of response to all emergencies is at a local level, whether it's at a town or a municipality level. That is the first line of response. But it's not only a response, but it is also a change for the future, reducing risk and strengthening our resilience. From UN Habitat, our program for urban resilience, we work with a global program, and we are lucky enough to receive the support of the city of Barcelona in developing the technology needed to conduct research and extract data and performing the analysis. The main idea is to extract data and information that then we can later use to make informed decisions based on the reality and with technical backup, so we can have an undeniable evidence. If we go to a town, a municipality, and we extract data, then we can make decisions to project solutions. Climate change is a global event, but it has impact at a local level. So in order for us to be resilient cities, we must work at a local level. And we have certain requirements to achieve that. But I want to highlight that it is important for us to take into account that if we think about 1990, there were 5 billion inhabitants back then, and now we're talking about 12 billion inhabitants. So that increase, if we project that increase to 2050, we can be talking about 15, 16 billion inhabitants. And most of the citizens of the world are currently living in urban areas nowadays. We are well beyond the 50-50 proportion of urban and rural areas. Nowadays, we have a great majority of population in urban areas. And it is estimated that in 2050, out of those 15, 16 billion citizens that I was talking about, it is expected that the majority of citizens live in the urban areas. In addition to that, we have to take into account the 1.5 Celsius degree in temperature increase, so the consequences are undeniable. We must begin to work towards urban resilience starting now. It is important to keep that in mind. There are small emergencies that, of course, are important, such as COVID-19. We must not lose sight of the fact that this crisis we're going to overcome this crisis, but we are going to face climate change afterwards. Urbanization is going fast, well beyond the capacities of local authorities. And if we consider all the different factors that play a role in urbanization and urban resilience, we cannot deny that it is imperative to start making changes right now. And this is why the Urban Resilience Program at UN Habitat has become increasingly important. Because we are in an ever-changing world, and decisions have to stop being made from a political point of view. We have to think from a global point of view, from a citizen point of view. We are seeing that cities and countries are starting to walk towards that path. They are starting to be more active rather than reactive in terms of climate change, in terms of urban resilience, in risk reduction. And I think that if we think about 2030, the year that we are supposed to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, I think that we can certainly get there in better conditions and look towards 2050 better prepared, as long as we work towards urban resilience and facing climate change. I don't want to go a lot into detail, but I do think that this discussion is very welcome and very necessary. Thank you very much. I think you gave some ideas that are very important to keep in mind. And if we work at a local level, it is certain that we can make better decisions. Our takeaway from your intervention is that resilience is something we must work in from now. And I want to now give the floor to Marc Velasco, who coordinates the European Project Rescue, so he can introduce us this great initiative that receives funding from the Horizon 2020 European program and is supported by UN Habitat among 15 other partners. Marc, good afternoon.
How can we get tomorrow's cities, that even today's cities, to be more resilient to climate change and emerging risks? You have the floor.
Buenas tardes, soy Marc Velasco de Suez, jefe de proyectos aquí, coordinador del proyecto Rescue, como decían. Bueno, pues el proyecto Rescue justamente es una iniciativa que va enfocada en el marco que estaba comentando ahora mismo Esteban, o sea, es un ámbito mucho más local. ¿Vale? El proyecto Rescue es un proyecto financiado por la Comisión Europea en el marco del programa Horizonte 2020, en el que durante los últimos 4 años, empezamos en 2016, hemos estado 4 años trabajando con 18 socios distintos, es decir, diferentes empresas, entidades públicas, entidades privadas, universidades, etcétera. Hemos estado trabajando y colaborando desde distintos puntos de vista, o sea, con distintos enfoques, porque las ciudades
because cities, of course,
son sistemas complejos de sistemas interconectados.
Interconnected
Justamente
systems.
por eso el consorcio de este proyecto
And that's why the consortium for this project
muy diversas que han
brought together very
datos, han colaborado, han
diverse
trabajado juntas
bodies
para poder avanzar
to
a
work
lo de la
together
resiliencia
and
urbana
try
ante el
to
cambio
create a resilience
El
program
proyecto
against
Rescue, como
climate
decía, ha
change.
durado 4 años, tenía un
As I said,
presupuesto
it's a
de 8
4-year
millones de euros, que
program
para
with
ser
an
una
8
iniciativa de
million
investigación en
euro
el marco de la Comisión Europea es un
budget.
proyecto grande.
So when you consider
Y, como decíamos,
other projects of that type, it's quite large.
entre
And as I said, it had these 18 different partners. We had Suez, but there are also research centers, Setacqua, for example, LENEC in Portugal. We also had other private enterprises such as Endesa, the Bristol, Lisbon, and Barcelona municipalities. The town councils also did. We had Exeter and UN Habitat, in their program for cities. What Rescue was trying to do was to find a solution from a very local view to global problems. Because climate change is affecting cities with critical problems. We're seeing this already, and in the future, due to the uncertainty generated by climate, we know that also that the population of cities is increasing, and this is critical. So we have to create urban resilience, and that's one of the critical goals, the objectives of these SDGs that was mentioned earlier by Esteban. So this is fairly simple. We have 8 work packages, we might say. The idea was to generate climate models. From a very technical standpoint, generating climate scenarios, data, detailed models, and so forth, our aim was to get all of this information so that this could be provided to public administrations. The 3 cities of the project, for example, Bristol, Lisbon, and Barcelona's town councils could have access to this, and we would have data, models, and information to be able to, as I said, support local administrations to develop their own resilience plans and create a roadmap for the coming years. Based on climate simulations, we did modeling. So the variables in the climate models, we looked at sewer systems, power systems, all kinds of networks in the urban settings to determine what the main risks were, the main impacts at a very granular level, so that we could know what the impacts of climate change would be. We also did a kind of cross-cutting management of different areas and services. So we could look at how the power sector could affect water treatment plants, or how waste could have an impact on beaches, for example, and try to always bear in mind the local population. And what we did with this integrated approach, or what we managed to do, was to see cascade effects. And some areas that weren't initially well-defined could later become much more visible. We also, in detail, tried to provide the main solutions or strategies in terms of adapting to climate change and improving resilience. Now, to do this, cost-benefit analysis and multi-criteria analyses are carried out to give the best information possible to public administrations to be able to make decisions. And we know that's not an easy thing to do, but because it can be very technical, we provide the tools that support decision-making. So we do the legwork, one might say, and help in the criteria that the public administrations need to be able to carry out these strategies. They may be quite different. They might be nature-based solutions. Some of them might be more management-based solutions, and others rely or look more toward more classical engineering-type solutions to improve networks and systems as a way of being better prepared for climate change. So as I was saying earlier, all of this is done for creating resilience plans of the 3 cities, Barcelona, Bristol, and Lisbon. These are documents that enable the town councils which participated in this project, this initiative, to define their working plan for the coming years, bearing in mind all of the information and output of the models that we used. Furthermore, the European Commission had the goal of having projects such as Rescue be beneficial not only to specific pilot cities where they're being implemented, such as the 3 I've already mentioned, but also that it be reproducible, so that any other European city, in fact, any place in the world, could use this type of approach. After 4.5 years, in November, we finalized the Rescue project, and this toolkit is basically just that. It's a place where you can get all of the project's results. There's a lot, because a lot of work was put into it. And you can see the individual results of the 3 cities, but you can also look at the tools, results that were generated, and so forth. And in that way, each place or city can use it to improve their own resilience. Thank you so much, Mark, and congratulations for that project. I'd like to thank Steven as well. I would highlight the importance of working together, all of these different aspects, as well as you and habitat. The idea being to create more smarter and more resilient cities. Public, private, joint ventures are also involved. And now, in this Suez World Tour, we're going to talk about other solutions for a green and inclusive solution. We have with us Manuel Ceremeron, CEO of Suez Spain, who will be talking about his view of how important it is to have innovation alliances. Good afternoon. What
como palanca de transformación.
Thank you very much. I think that if we were talking about this 12 months ago, we would need a greater introduction. But this year, we have all realized that we need to have adaptation resources. And certainly, I say that because we are all facing COVID-19 and we have to readjust all our work and personal lives. So it is an imperative not only to provide excellence every day, but we have to analyze a need that may not be there yet. And along with our clients, we need to be able to give value to that. And I think that all organizations have understood that, and we are not an exception. So we have to provide added value every day, and we have to be currently reimagining what we need to work on in the future. And I'm not talking about innovation just to try out an idea, but rather to see it as a challenge to industrialize and be able to replicate that in the market. That is what's called scaling up. So it is not a matter of finding a solution for a very specific problem, but rather a solution that can be introduced to the market and replicated. I am sure City Sentinel will be a great example of this, and other projects we will hear from during this session. We have to work on innovation collaboratively. We talked about the SDGs, and number 17 talks about alliances and partnerships. So we need to work with the knowledge and scientific system, with the public and private sectors. As an organization, I would say that we have the responsibility of becoming a platform for innovation. Suez, as a big organization, is capable of attracting the talent everywhere. And we saw the example with the rescue. We have a groundbreaking project and that works with great talents at a university level, at a company level, at a city level. And the value that that provides is undeniable. We have to work on innovation with the knowledge base, but also with the productive tissue. We have worked with Atlantic Cooper to be able to reuse water in the mining section. We have worked with Consentino with their production system and other projects that have looked at reusing water in the agricultural sector. And we need to be able to translate that innovation into the market and in a service format, but also as a knowledge that we can share and that research centers can follow and that can then be repackaged and be used, for example, in the School of Water that we have. We have a great competitive advantage, and that is our footprint, our territorial sites that allow us to open our doors to different startups and different companies, and we can help them advance in that process and at the same time enrich our portfolio. And all that is possible with people and thanks to people. Without the necessary talent, we could not be able to do this. We need a scouting system and a collaboration system. We need commitment from people working with us, committed to working towards a different 2021, towards a different 21st century. And that is all. I just want to reiterate something that you probably have heard many, many times. Please take care of yourself. We are only at the early stages of COVID-19. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you for reminding us that we certainly need to take that into account. We know that we are in difficult times right now. Thank you for your example. Thank you for sharing your roadmap in terms of innovation. In these reconstruction times, it is clear that innovation plays a fundamental role in materializing solutions. And we are seeing that in the different interventions that we are having today and the different examples we're hearing from in the webinar right now and the other webinars that took place today. We are now moving to the next section, and we are going now to give the floor to our teams in Latin America. As we mentioned, climate change has a real and direct impact on water resources, both in terms of quality and availability. What solutions have been developed in our group to preserve water and guarantee the continuity of essential services efficiently and in a sustainable way? To hear from that, we are going now to move to Chile, a country that is a reference in terms of responding to water challenges. We are now giving the floor to Edson Landeros, who will talk us about the consequences of climate change in Chile. Can you tell us a little bit more about it, please?
Hello, and thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to share our experience and the solutions we're providing to continue to adapt to new climate scenarios, which are really a challenge. Just to set it in context, so to put it into context, the future climate-wise in Chile is of concern, particularly if you look at the capital of Chile, in Santiago, because we know there's going to be increased temperature, maybe a degree and a half annually, a reduction in rainfall from 5 to 15%. And this is also going to lead to the fact that the snow line will go higher. And this is the natural storage of snow that we get in the winter is going to be diminished. And then there will be extreme rainfall, on the other hand, which will also have its impact, particularly because that will become much more frequent. We have a reduction of stream flow. If you look at the Maipo River in Santiago de Chile, its volume will be increased 20%. Today, we've seen over the last decade a sustained reduction in glaciers, which are melting. These are natural water reservoirs. They've existed for a very long time, and yet if you look at these photos, you can see the tremendous reduction of their volume in the last years. If you look at rainfall, you can see rain is diminishing. This year was the driest year we've had in the last 10 years. So we have to start taking measures now as we plan ahead for the medium and long term. The challenges, well, I would divide them into two in this context. One, to guarantee water supply that's also supplied to the population because of the reduced water availability, and also the issue of water quality, and also depending on where people live. Because sometimes when there's flooding, there's more turbidity in water, and this is a quality issue. There's also the challenge of increasing efficiency. We have to better understand the water cycles. Incorporate different supply sources, water supply sources, as well as really get people to use water very wisely. We also want to prepare for emergencies. We have aquifers as well, that is groundwater sources that can also be included in these emergencies, as well as having early warning systems. And what this means is that we can minimize the impact of these events when they happen. Part of the innovation and solutions that we've included in our company, well, of all of those, maybe I would mention this, which is the most recent, the pond with the raw water reservoir in the metropolitan area with 1.5 million cubic meters of water. And even when there's this high turbidity events, water is available. This is something that the company has been including over the last years. There were some 34 hours of autonomy, and you can disconnect from the river and provide water supply to the population from here. We just wait and see if we can get the signal back. Well, he had a few minutes left, but he was talking about these reservoirs of raw water. In case of turbidity events, it was possible to take water from these reservoirs. We can wait a few moments more, but he was already at the end of his talk, so we could go on to the next speaker, and we can go back to him later. Well, the idea is, as he said, to minimize the impact of climate change, to help in planning, technology, innovation. Managing water resources as a response to climate change is not the only line of action. And in this group, in our group, the circular economy takes precedence. So there has been a change from the linear to the circular economy. And now we will have with us Carlos Castro, who's a deputy manager of biofactories and operational sustainability of Aguas Andinas. And he can talk about biofactory. And in fact, it was considered the best innovation in climate change response by the UN. What is and how does a biofactory work?
Thank you very much, Jose. In order to contextualize, well, before that, I actually want to thank everyone for joining us. We are on the other hemisphere, but we are thankful to be able to intervene. Since 2005 up to 2017, the water treatment was taking place in isolated manner, so we would preserve the health and the safety of people. We made sure that our water was of high quality. So going back to your question, what is a biofactory? It is just a matter of intensifying the water resources to preserve water, but also for the future to be able to face the drought problem that we are facing in Latin America, but also globally. So we also can work towards having a purity of air and water that can be reused. Here we are showing what is a biofactory. Usually the question is, what radical changes did you apply? And what is it? Where is this plant? We have 6 million inhabitants that we provide the service to. There are more than 300 people working in this treatment plant. If we look at the left side of the screen, that is maybe the old vision, but we have renewed that vision. And what did we do? Well, we just added resource management and an adequacy plan in order for us to be able to produce clean water, energy, fertilizers, and treated gas. So that provided us with a circular economy. This was a solution to a practical problem, but it was also a way of solving a traditional solution in this plant with incentives to create more demand. That allowed us to have a flow that is guaranteed for 20 years, so that gives security to the company. And what is this adequacy plan? Is removing the nitrogen and in one of the biofactories, we have a plant that generates almost 90% of the power. And this is our vision. We want to make this a reality. And how can we do this? There are many ways of doing so, but we want to provide added value to society. One can wonder, and how expensive are these biofactories? Well, these factories were almost 14 years old, but we have to consider the value that can be added in the future. But we have to face the problem that we have infrastructures that are aging infrastructures. And currently, we are, for example, transferring treated water. We heard that in the drought webinar previously. So with that, with this treated water, we close the circular economy. We wanted to show these changes in a balance. You have on one side the old point of view, and we see costs that can be transformed into resources. And resources are our future, and it has a shared value. By investing in this integration, we provide shared value. And Suez can do that with the technology and the talent that it has. So this becomes a fair delivery among stakeholders. Shareholders from Aguas Andina, but also the service provider, which in this case is Suez. But the most important thing is that value is created within the group. Previously, we would pay for a great amount of things. We would pay for power, for treated water, for maintenance and operations. We don't pay for that now. If you look at the right side of the screen, you can see this balance that we try to achieve by using and applying incentives. If we use treated water and we swap it, if we use that treated water, we can certainly see that circular economy is not a dream anymore. It is a reality in Chile. And we are indeed, as Jose mentioned, groundbreaking in this sense. I could give you more data, but I just want to leave it at that, and thank you for your attention. Thank you, Carlos. Biofactories are, as you mentioned, a groundbreaking advance, an innovation model that is unique, and it is implemented not only in Chile, but also in other areas of the world, such as Sur de Granada in Spain, another biofactory here in the south of Spain. And with the solutions from Suez, we take steps towards the circular economy, and we are able to have a circular economy. As you mentioned, resources are the future and give value to the circular economy. We had Edson talking about raw water storage in Pirque, and he was telling us that allows us to face emergencies. Please, Edson, you have a minute to wrap up. Thank you very much. I was mentioning earlier other solutions, and I wanted to explain how we face high turbidity events. And in this regard, we are collaborating with other stakeholders, CETACUA, for example, the Center of R&D from Suez in Chile. We are also working with universities and other companies to be able to develop an early warning system for high turbidity events, and in order for us to be able to better understand why these events happen. And we have developed a weather forecasting model, and we have also developed equipment for measuring these high turbidity events. And soon we will be able to take that on the field and take it out of the lab, let's say. And we are talking about 10,000, 5,000 units. We are also working to be able to have a forecasting model that allows us to forecast these high turbidity events 24 to 48 hours before. We also want to understand what areas of the basin are greatly impacted by these events and develop actions to mitigate these effects downstream. And I want to conclude here and apologize for these internet connection issues, but I hope I had been able to provide a global point of view of how we work in water resources and turbidity events. Thank you very much, Edson. Certainly, it is imperative to invest and take action now to forecast these events that are increasingly more common. Edson, Carlos, thank you very much. Now we are going to the last section of the event. In addition to the climate emergency, we are experiencing an unprecedented global health crisis. In the pandemic context, we need to guarantee access to drinking water sources and sanitation services to stop the spread of the virus. It is important to keep in mind that wastewaters have an important role in identifying the virus, as we have heard in the previous webinar that was dedicated to health and climate and the environment. Now we welcome Marina Arnaldos and Ángel Villanueva, who work in resilience and climate change in Suez, Spain. First, we will give the floor to Marina. Marina, in terms of following the virus in wastewater, we've seen that the project Reveal has been a groundbreaking project. Before talking about the project, can you tell us a little bit more about the knowledge and partnership networks of?
Thank you. Well, Setagua, as you might have gleaned from the earlier talks, has technologies having to do with the application of scientific knowledge to the environment and the water cycle. In that regard, this is done through a joint venture model. And in fact, it's quite a pioneer because it also includes universities. So, for example, there's a group in the south of Spain. We also have we have other universities. We have the Higher Council of Science for Science and Scientific Research, and we also have Chile, Setagua. So we have to say in Barcelona, Galicia, Andalusia, and Chile. The idea is to get efficiencies which will benefit the citizens and also manage the water cycle from start to finish. The research alliances were development as well as knowledge networks, different for each challenge. And in the case of COVID, what was done was to bring to the table those people who had the knowledge and know-how which would enable us to face those challenges. This joint venture seemed to be very essential for this. And so what would you say were the main results, or what learning came out of that that can be used for society, for the company, for clients, and so forth? Well, from the very beginning of the pandemic, the objectives were very clear. We had three main objectives. One was to generate an analytical method which would enable us to measure genetic material in wastewater. Also, to determine that there were no risks in water supply, and to see finally whether the concentration of the virus could help in follow-up of the pandemic itself. So what we did was get partners both within the group and in universities, which are benchmarks worldwide in terms of epidemiology relating with wastewater, and as well as other knowledge networks. So what we managed to develop here was what we did was sampling in different places and different regions. And we also looked at sludge. In Spain, we obtained information from 5 cities with more than 6 million inhabitants. If you look at the global scope, including France and Chile, we had 14 cities with over 15 million inhabitants. In the end, the most important results, above and beyond developing the methodology and identifying risks, was that we were able to determine that the concentration of virus, genetic material in water is very useful to follow up the epidemiological progression of the disease, and this was done in Spain. Thank you very much, Marina. Proactivity, engineering, other aspects that were really important in this Reveal project. How can this be transformed into a service?
Hello, good afternoon. How did we do that? Well, with a lot of effort and in a record-breaking time. Of course, the situation did not allow us to take our time to do so. And we had to find the methodology, and once we had it, we had to rush to provide this service to society. This is how we contributed in the fight against the pandemic. And we took this project as a comprehensive project, and that's what I want to showcase on the slide. We had to analyze the network, and the network has a basin behind it, and we had to analyze the sampling points and identify that sample points. We took those samples, took them to the lab, analyzed them, and once we had the results, as Marina was saying, the results allowed us to see the concentration of the genetic material in the water. And that results are at the disposal of citizens, of municipalities, governments. So once we provide the results, our work is done. Then the decision makers have to play with all those results. We deployed this system in a very short amount of time. We were already deployed in May. And we keep transferring the results of the R&D to the service. So it is improving daily. We also incorporate the needs of our clients. The data that you see on screen are from a month ago. We were present in over 70 towns. We had over 620 sampling locations. And now, again, the results must be way higher. But back then, we had already reached almost 13 million people. This platform has been adopted by the ministry to show the data that they themselves are acquiring through sampling in several Spanish cities. And why and how are these data used? There are different uses for this data. Sometimes I talk about a crystal ball because I think that one of the goals of these results is to anticipate outbreaks. So by analyzing this data, we can somehow predict outbreaks. Another use is detecting trend changes. When it's time to maybe relax lockdown measures, or when we have to assess how the virus is moving around a population, a town. We can also locate focus. When we see that there are more positive results in a specific area, but not on the area nearby. So depending on the time or the moment of the wave of the virus, you can use the results for one thing or another. This can be used at a town level, maybe if you have a water treatment plant, but that doesn't give you sampling result divided in areas. So you can work at a neighborhood level, you can work at a building level, for example, such as geriatric residences. And I think I have to say that you have to sample a place that where people use the toilet, because we use wastewater. We analyze wastewater, so maybe taking a sample at a school at 4 a.m. in the morning doesn't serve any purpose. But if we talk about long-term transports, such as cruises, that can be sampled as well. And what do we do with that? Data are data, and once we have them, it is a matter of interpreting the data. We just provide data to the health authorities, and they add the data we provide to all the data they have. So, again, we provide the information, and we can, for example, increase the frequency of our data taking, but authorities need to make the decisions if they need to consider if a park should be closed or bars should be closed. So in terms of lockdown and mobility limitation, that is not up to us, it's up to the decision makers. And that is all. Thank you, Angel. Angel, if I asked you, how can you summarize the benefits of this solution for your clients? How would you put that? Well, there are a lot of benefits and a lot of disadvantages as well. This is an aggregated measure. It can be very useful, and it tells you how the population is, but you cannot individualize it. You don't know how a certain person is. PCRs are still necessary. This is not in substitution of them. But this allows you to take a picture, fixed or even an evolving picture, if you take sample and data regularly. So you can have a picture. And it is not an invasive measure. You don't have to send anyone to the medical center to be analyzed. It is not biased, because we've heard that the more tests you make, the more positive results you have. But this measure is not biased, because the results are the results. And that crystal ball that I was talking about is not perfect, but it works reasonably well. However, keep in mind that we need to interpret the results. The crystal ball is telling us things, but sometimes we have to interpret what they tell us. We have seen that the European Union is including the system, and I think they included that in a document that went to the European Parliament recently, something about wastewater and resilience. I don't remember the specific name, but it mentioned the disease control in the European Union, and this document promoted the analysis of wastewater in terms of epidemiology. So it is not us saying that, but rather the European Union as well. Thank you both for explaining the necessary partnerships to translate innovation into a solution to respond to the client's needs.
We've reached the end of our webinar. I want to thank all of the participants, as well as everybody who's following us from different corners of the earth. We hope you've enjoyed this webinar, which was a meeting point with teams from Suez, Spain, and in Latin America, within this Suez Virtual World Tour of Innovation. The tour hasn't finished yet, though. If you want to know more about how digital technology helps have more robust infrastructures and more efficient water processes, we invite you to follow the webinar, which will be coming up next from the US at 5 p.m. Spanish time, 11 a.m. Eastern time in the US. You'll also find the replays of these webinars if there's any that you have missed and you're interested in. Thank you all. We will continue to work together for a green, inclusive recovery. See you soon.